Welcome back to the channel, you mad mongrels. We're in the garage. Yeah, as you can see, Big G2 is off the boat. So, yeah. How good? How good is the old G2? Anyway, let's take you off here and show you exactly what's going on today. So, G2, major fault, what are they? This section right in here. Where are you? Here. I'll point better here. So this section here, there's a seal here, there's a seal here. Top cap seal. This went last time, just before Christmas, got this replaced. This is our problem today. So this down here, it was leaking. I don't know if you can see it. You can't really see that it's leaking. I can see it from here. Maybe if I come around this side and I can shove the camera in and out. I don't know if you can actually see that there is residue just coming off the bottom of the shaft. So that's my job for today, is to get this sorted. Now, for everyone else wondering how you get these things off, I'll go through, show you kind of slowly but surely how you disassemble these things. So just quickly, first thing to take off is always going to be your top. We'll put this down somewhere out of the way. We'll put it on the staircase because it's out of the way. There. Now, it's a T25 from memory. It's a T25 Starbit. T25? Yeah, buddy. Little cap goes inside the flywheel. That's so you can get to the thread for the actual lifting eye. This one covers that one, and then this one covers the whole top. Right there. Just so you got an idea of anyone that, you know, is thinking about working on their G2 themselves. They're a complex system, but they're a simple system. And the way I say they're complex is because if you don't understand it, it doesn't make sense, but it does once you do understand it. In my head, that's how it happened with me. So that's your EMM to control box, pretty much. That's your Nemea 2000. Not needed. Oil supply, but it's got its own oil bottle in the side. Fuel supply, and that's your trim and tilt from memory that goes to the plug just here. And that's it. Apart from, and your two steering lines. That's it. So that's just a flat blade for the quick releases. We'll speed this up so you're not watching me do all this, because you don't need to.
Life can be hard, but it's what we do. Take it to the top. Yeah.
That's concerning. I don't think that's supposed to just fall out. Whose idea was it to put nylock nuts under here? Mine, because you remember correctly, this is what happened the first time I had it. I couldn't work out why it kept stopping. You're probably thinking, but Tomo, why are you taking all of this apart? You don't have to take all of it apart, mate. It'll just pull back. Yeah, I got it just slightly short of a 2-year-old. So my idea is to pull this up backwards and then sort of leave it in the corner so Lennox can't get to it or touch it. I kind of put a cloth over it, leave it, and then I can work on this bit. Because as I said, I don't know what's going to happen once I pull that apart. It could be good. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're shit.
Just friends in increasing my strength when I remember myself.
Alright, let's have a bit of a look at this. So, we've got that apart now. That's going to be a mission to get back in. May need Hayley's help or someone's help putting that back in. It's going to be a little bit of a... You can see a couple of the threads where it's just pulled the top of that, but that's alright. It's just going to be a slide, drop, slide, drop, slide, drop, slide. That's going to go back in. That's just difficult getting it out by myself. But anyway, that's fine. We've got that out. So that was pretty straightforward. These had some sort of blue Loctite or something. I think they could use some grease in there, to be honest. Which is fine. We'll sort that out. Other than that, it looks alright. Obviously, there's a little bit of... don't know what that sticky shit is, but anyway. This will come off. We'll give this a clean. Look at it. It's disgusting. Then I'm assuming this comes up off that. That's going to come up. Take that up, and then we open it all up and figure it out, eh? All fun and games. Let's have another go.
Life can be hard, but it's what we do. Take it to the top. Yeah.
A few moments later.
Alright, so this is one of the problems I'm having right now. I don't know how to get this off. I've had a bit of a hit with a screwdriver and whatnot to try and see if I can knock that. But that's not coming off. I know one of the tabs is a locking tab. So one's up to lock this in position, and then one's down over here to lock it in position to stay relative to the, whatever you want to call that piece, the top bit there, right? But I can't get that off. That's my problem at the moment. So I'll come back to you once I got that off. Alright, so I gave it a little bit of time, guys. Gave it a little bit of time. Lennox is here because he was getting angry. Say hello. He's getting angry because he hadn't had a look. So I got it off. I didn't have the specialty tool required, so I used a punch and a hammer after I gave it a break. Now, I don't know. I may have to look at this and may have to replace because I've punched it a couple of times. But anyway, yeah, no, you just keep looking. But this is what we've got. We've got this hanging here. So anyway, I've just gone and got a rubber mallet. So we've just got to mark center on this thing for some reason. It just wants me to mark center, I think, on the shaft and whatnot. But I'm going to give this a bit of a love tap. See if we can get that out. So, all right, let's have another go, Lennox. See how we go.
So it was up until this point that I looked at Lennox and worked out that some sockets had gone missing. Now, I knew he wouldn't eat them, but I was like, where have you put them, just in case he'd done something with them? So what I had to do was I had to go and grab the other camera, quickly flick it into the computer, and figured out that he was putting the old sockets inside the bottom yoke there. So little fella, just before 2 is clued up, knew the sockets had to go somewhere, but just thought I'll start hiding them inside little holes in the motor.
Break away, telling us how to live their way, but some of us know that it's a play with all the lies around us, keeping us
Stop the video because I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm out on my feet, I don't know what I'm doing, which probably more than likely is the case. However, I asked for some help on Instagram, put on the story, and I asked for some help because I was like, I just don't know. And so I was asking about the shaft, right? So I've got a couple of opinions on the shaft. You can see right here, there's some burring on the shaft. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the best thing either. But I asked about that because I found that it was wearing inside on what looks to be like a Teflon seal. Now, this seal here, which is an O-ring with then what I think is a Teflon seal. I don't know if you can see that very well in the picture. You can see it's got two little wear marks. It's got like a ring inside it. And anyway, that was sitting just in... Oh God, hang on. Let me get a torch going in. It's just not working. Look, guys, you can see I'm not exactly a whiz-bang technician here when it comes to lighting and cameras. Anyway, it's sitting in that that second position. So here has the lip seal that sits here, and then just in that lip, just in there is this funny looking seal, which I think is like a Teflon guide, and then it's got the rubber O-ring around the outside. So I'm going to take this back to the gentleman who helped me out today. I'm going to take this tomorrow and see if I can get this replaced. So yeah, I've cleaned that up. That seems to be nice. That's good. The gear itself seems to be nice, clean, no issues there. I've cleaned up the yoke in the fluid that I have down there. It's dirty, whatever. It's fine. It's cleaner than water. I've cleaned up this. Now, this is the new top cap. If you have a look at the top cap, look at the paint. So you can see, let's see if I can hold this. You can see, look at this. Look. This annoys me. There shouldn't be any paint on this flat surface to get a proper seal. So I'll clean that up so that gets a proper seal when it goes back down. But again, there is another Teflon ring inside there. I think it's a Teflon ring. I'm nearly sure it's Teflon, but anyway, it's something. This is my workbench for the time being, with all my bits and pieces laid out that I've needed to use and whatnot. So old O-ring, C-hook, spanner. So that's what I should have used on that, but instead I used a cold chisel. But anyway, that part there you can get, so I'm going to probably just order a new one, keep that as a spare. If I can't get a new one, I will just fix this and put it back in, but I will probably try and repair it. C-hook wrench to put that back in. I do know how far that should go to make it tight again, so that's fine. Anyway, that's all that bits and pieces. Hopefully tomorrow we've got more good news. So we're just going to fast forward a little bit. Got the other tripod out the back, guys. Just going to fast forward. So you've just been seeing me sort of going around the garage and stuff like that and showing you bits and pieces with the seals and stuff. We didn't have a camera malfunction or anything like that. I just got lazy with trying to just record everything. I just wanted to fix the boat. So forgive me. But if you watch my Instagram, you would have seen that it's all repaired, all fixed. We have tested it. It went fine. No issues at all. So what I'll try and do here is do an overlay of exactly what sits where. I'll try and put an overlay just here so you can have a bit of a look. So essentially from here, you've got the cap on top, then there's a nut in there and a locating washer, if you like. You take that off. You can then get the yoke off. The yoke will pop up, and then underneath the yoke you've got access to the top cap seal, okay, which also has the grease nipple because it's the later model one. I also have the steering sensors on the front there for the lock-to-lock angle, okay, so the steering angle. And then essentially what you've got on the inside is a bearing that sits here. There's a couple of O-rings that sit on the bottom of the on the shaft is inside here, that just sits a little bit proud inside here, and between here and the shaft there's two O-rings. Now I'll come back to them in a minute on what I did to them, but you've got a bearing that sits here which is about, say, 2 fingers thick, just there, that has a bearing, and then you've got the piston that moves up and down here in a sort of vertical cylinder motion, if you want to call it that, okay? And then as you come down, just let me try and remember this, just here, so this is all, so the shaft just goes straight through here. You've got a gear which is placed to go against the piston, so the piston and the gear move up and down not together but against each other. So that's in here, and then down here is sort of open, and then there is a needle bearing right here. Then you've got your Teflon seal that sits just here, and we'll come to that in a minute, and then you've got your single lip seal, which I upgraded to a double lip seal. I had a couple people ring me and ask as well, a little bit of movement in the, if you have a look, There's a little bit of movement there. You might be able to see actually going off the other camera that's up here. You might be able to see just that little bit of movement right there. What that is, that's actually the gear, the two gears, the one gear on the piston and the gear that's located in the shaft, just meshing on themselves. You have to have that little bit of backlash so they don't bind up. So that's all that is. So if you get a little bit of play, just like that, that's okay. Don't be too worried. I did have someone that rang me and asked me, oh, is this all right? It's perfectly fine. Okay, so coming back to this as well, you can see I put the grease nipple in there. Okay, so on the later model stern and swivels, if you did get them replaced by BRP, they did have a grease nipple in there. It was a chamfered sort of edge. It was a flat edge that they put the grease nipple into. However, I looked at it. I'll put up some photos as well. I looked at it, I went back and forth, and I kind of fluked it. But I measured it to where I wanted it to sit, and I'll show you some photos now of where I needed it to kind of go into, and that's where I drilled it into, and it's been working fine. No issues there. So just to go back on, let's have a look. So I changed the yoke, got a couple of bits and pieces here. Let's get these out first. I'll put the camera down for a sec. Pulling all these seals out, just so I can put these, let's put my phone down. I'll put it up there so I don't scratch it. Try and remember exactly where everything went. They're your two outsides. They're your top cap and that. These two. That's your yoke at the bottom. I think they're the two that go on the top. These feel really crap. What did I change them from? I don't even think they're from this kit. They're not. So we can ditch them because I don't think they exist, to be honest. They're not from anything. This annoys me. This front screen just needs to stay on. Okay, so you just wanted to know a little bit about the seals and what's in there. So essentially your two O-rings, okay, your two O-rings, they're for this, okay? So when you've got if you've got any water penetration getting into here, they're O-rings. So essentially it's just one big O-ring that sits around the outside. And then you've got another locking tab with another nut that sits in there. Again, I just cover it in grease just so I know. So I did order 2 more of those. I got them replaced. Again, none of the seals exist, okay? So I've got bits and pieces now. I've got a kit. I've got a kit that I did because I burnt through a whole lot of seals in the Teflon oil seal. So none of these seals exist, okay? So just going through, I've got bits and pieces. I've just laid them out just here so if you can have a look at. So yoke, this seal here, located right in here, just sitting just there, pretty much inside the yoke at the top of this bottom yoke mount, whatever you want to call it. That's sitting just in there to stop any water from getting from here to here. This does have a cap on the bottom of it, okay? Does have a cap, but I did replace the seal. I wanted to make sure that it was, you know, in good working order and keeping all the water out. So there's a cap at the bottom that has another little O-ring. When I say little, it's about the same size and it goes around a cap. So that sits in there. Then what you'll have is a single lip seal. Okay, so this single lip seal, okay, so you can see that the stainless, can I do this with one hand? Let's go, Michael, come on, buddy, let's go. So there we go, stainless just in there, sits just like that. That's to keep the water out. Okay, so when I was first talking about this, I thought this was going to be the actual problem. However, it's used, it's a bit dry. I didn't like it when it came out anyway. I thought this was the absolute problem. It was probably a contributing factor, but it wasn't the problem. The problem was this little sucker here. So this one, so your single lip seal sits right there. I'm trying to give you the best possible view. So it sits right there, just underneath that grease nipple just there. And then this one sits right on top, bang there, inside that housing there. This one is a very particular one. It's not an off-the-shelf part. hence why you can see I've got 3 of them, because we had to get the measurements 100% right. We did have some issues with, I think it was these 2. They're 1 mil out for the, they're 1 mil out on the tolerance. So when Jimmy measured up all the seals to get all the seals 100%, he sent them off to be manufactured. The gentleman who manufactured these as well took in consideration the tolerance. He didn't have to, Jimmy had already measured for it. So this is the latest one. These were 2 that I was looking at, going back and forth, back and forth. We test fit them a couple of times to make sure. That is the only one, right? These ones here are the only difficult ones to get into the bottom of that housing, because they sit in a groove. I had to Google it. I had to go all through this sort of thing. You've got to kidney bean the seal to get it into position. The O-ring is fine. The O-ring goes into position, but it's to get the Teflon glide seal, guide seal. I don't know what it's got, some funny name. I don't know, guys. I'm not a mechanical type of person. I've got a bit of a background, as you can see. So I don't really know what it's called, but they're the only ones. You've got to kidney bean it to get it into position. Now, it sounds funny, but you've kind of got to, they don't have much of a memory, so you can bend them. Now I can do that because, as you can see, this one is stuffed from me picking it out. They don't have like a memory, so as soon as you bend them, they kind of just stay in a thing until you massage them and get them to go back to a cylindrical kind of shape. And then what you've got on top of that is you've got 2 of these O-rings. These are the 2 O-rings that sit on the shaft just up the top, and that's to stop any water going inside. So they rub on the inside of your top yoke, which is just here, and we'll come to this in a sec. So the shaft goes through the top yoke, and they're just to stop any sort of water ingress or anything like that coming up the shaft and getting into that area. And then your 2 other O-rings, which are these 2, are for your top cap. So one on, no, that's for the top, and then that's for that just there, and then that's for the plastic cap, which just goes on top, which you can see with the 3 bolts. Everything comes out fairly simply, guys. I didn't, like I said to you, I didn't actually film me reassembling it, and the reason for that is I kind of started test fitting. Once I got to this point, it had been a couple of weeks, and I was just tired of, you know, getting bounced around from different people, and I appreciate everyone that helped. I got the shaft repaired, I've got all the seals, like I said, everything like that, and I just got tired of trying to film stuff and then just not getting to a certain point, and it was frustrating. I was like, you know what, let's just test fit this, let's just see how we go at this point. And then I think I got to at least 11:45 one night, and she was 98% back together. I just had to put the top cap seal on, and I was like, oh, I'm done. Like, I've actually put all this back together, you know, well, so I don't need to pull this all apart. And I was just like, you know what, I'm done with this. Let's just put it all back together. So I had already replaced, or I paid someone to replace the top cap seal, okay? Because the top cap seal, original top cap seal, okay, sits like this, and it was leaking. You can see it doesn't have, that would be the bleeder nipple fitting just there, but it doesn't have the grease nipple that comes out the side. That just supplies a bit of grease in there to stop any sort of water ingress, water penetration, and just to kind of lubricate sort of inside those seals. Now, the makeup of the old top cap is very different. It's got different seals inside. So do I think you could possibly fix that? If you had an issue with it, yes. Looking at it, you could take it to a seal supplier and get all that replaced. It looks like it's just got a single lip seal on the top, and then it's got a glide seal inside, and that's really about it on that one. So I got that replaced. Now, the issue I had is I didn't get the yoke replaced. Now, if you can see, I'm just going to try and show you, if you can see the pitting that is just on, I'll turn this upside down. I'll place this on the boat softly. Softly. Nice cover there by Western Sydney Boat Covers, Al and the team out at Emu Plains, if you do want to get a good cover for your ski boat here in Sydney. So you can see just here the pitting. Okay, so that's all pitted there. There's a groove just there as well up the top that's obviously come about. Now I did give this a bit of a clean because I wanted to have a look, but that's, you know, that's got some corrosion and pitting right there. On the back side there's a little bit more below as well. So changing this was never ever going to fix this. And that's why I've said in a couple of videos now on Instagram, if you're going to change the top cap seal, highly recommend having a look at your yoke mount, top mount as they call it by BRP. That is still available too. Like, I rang our local dealer Hunts Marine when I was doing it, and I spoke to Ali. Shout out to Ali from Hunts Marine. He gave me a wealth of help, you know, sourcing what I could that is available. And he said at the time he had 4 of those on the shelf, and there was 5 more coming into the country that he could see. So they're still making those. So my advice to you is, if you're going to go down this path, if you're going to replace this, have a look at this, because if it is damaged, just replace it. But yeah, so I then replaced that, and I've replaced pretty much all the seals inside. I didn't replace any on the piston because they looked all right. We measured them, they measured fine, so there was no issue there on the piston itself. But yeah, it's all back together. I didn't have any specialty tools. The only thing I did, and look, this is just my inexperience, and I'll be completely honest with you guys, I'm no mechanic as such. I'm mechanically minded. I can understand things if I see it and sort of, you know, get advice, in which I've been getting a lot of advice of a lot of people, and I appreciate that. Another shout out to Jeff Stubbs from Sports Fisherman Marine. I've been getting a lot of help from a lot of people, and I really appreciate everyone that has been helping. Jeff Stubbs from Sports Fisherman Marine, he was giving me help. He was giving me advice on how it should come apart, bits and pieces, and then little things, little tips and tricks on, you know, like the single lip seal. He said, pull the stainless ring out of it, like the little spring, cut 2 or 3 mil off it, and then wind it back together. Again, have a look, guys. Next time you've got one that you can have a look, pull it apart, have a look. You can then see and go, okay, I can tighten that up a little bit. Sure, that makes it rub a little bit more. It's also going to keep the water out. As again, I thought that was going to be the problem, and I thought it was incorrectly. You know, knowing that the spring faces the pressure that it needs to hold, I thought mine was in backwards because that was facing down. I was like, man, that's not going to hold any oil in, or any, you know, any hydraulic fluid or anything like that. That's not going to work. But then I learned, no, that's keeping the water out. And the other one, the Teflon glide seal, that's what was keeping all the pressure in. So when I reinstalled it, and I'm, you know, I make mistakes as well, guys. We all do. So when I put the seals in, when I was test fitting everything, remember this was like 11 o'clock at night when I'm putting everything back together. I put that single, or the double lip, I put a double lip seal in there, okay? I put a double lip seal. Now when I put the double lip seal in there, I was like, oh, I've got to put grease on it, right? I put grease around the outside, thinking this is, you know, it's going to be heaps better. It's coating it, holds it in place, beautiful, no worries. But then when I've put the grease nipple on, and I put a bit of grease into it, when I put everything back together, the seal went, and I was like, oh no, that's not good. No, not good at all. But anyway, shout out to Ryan from High Performance Marine. Called him and I said, brother, I've put this back in and it keeps popping out. What am I doing wrong? And he goes, oh, get rid of the grease around the outside of it, put a bit of bearing retainer, shove that sucker back in, and she'll be apples, in which she is. The other thing I was going to tell you as well, so these O-rings here, they go around the shaft on the inside, so around the shaft in the housing that sit on the inside of this, okay, so they sit around the shaft and then they get located into there. I used quad rings, which are like an X ring, just because instead of using an O-ring, which only gives you one lip, essentially when it gets forced in there, you only get one like bit of contact. You get two with the X quad ring, whatever you want to call it, but it's only like a single time use, so which is fine. I thought we'd do that just to see how that's going. Again, have had no leaks, no issues. We took it out, and everything has been working well. I have bled it with I call it the Bubble Buster 9000. It's not the C-Star Power Purge, it's the Ultra Flex version, but it has done wonders. I can recommend that if you do go to bleed any of these systems, don't manually bleed them. I have manually bled it for the last, however long I've been running it. I'm not going to say owned it, because I've owned it for 12 months and I haven't used it that much. BRP. But anyway, bleed it with a power purge unit of some sort, whether it be the Ultra Flex or it be the C-Star power purge unit. I also redid some cable sheathing to make it look a bit nicer, as you can see. The grey, shout out to Gary. Gary's given me a great amount of help. Gary is just a gentleman that saw that I put up the post that I'm going to be doing this, and he offered advice straight off the bat, like, I know hydraulic systems, I know this and that, and blah, 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 blah. He's like, do you want to have a chat? I was like, yes, I do. That sounds great. I'm willing to listen to anyone that's got advice on these things on how I can go about it. Again, I'm not a mechanic, okay? So Gary essentially just simplified everything for me to understand it. You guys see an excavator, yeah? I sell them. That's what I do. I sell excavators. That there is a tilt hitch. Now, anyone that knows excavators and tilt hitches will go, oh, is that it? Yep, that's it. That's a tilt hitch for your steering. That's all it is. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh man, okay, no worries, we're on. And then Gary was really good and instrumental in helping with, you know, a bit of cable sheathing and stuff like that, and bled it, no dramas, everything was good. What then happened, and this is something I didn't know, once we got it all back on and everything was good, the DPS was running and I could hear the pump just chattering away, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? I've got some issue with the sensors. So I bled it, like I said, with that unit, I bled it a dozen times at least. Now, a dozen times with the power purge unit, or the Bubble Buster 9000, I like to call it, so much easier than manually bleeding. Otherwise, Haley would have had to be out here and trying to help me bleed it manually. But I could do it by myself. But it still didn't fix the problem, and it kept going off, and I'm like, man, what am I missing, eh? Harry's like, I've got the software, Michael, let's have a bit of a look, let's see what's going on. So we plugged it in and we could see that it was reading pressure, which doesn't make any sense because we weren't turning the steering wheel. If you turned it ever so slightly, it would turn off and then it'd crack back on again, like it had picked something up. So long story really short, ChatGPT is another good friend of yours, okay? While it's not always 100% correct, you have to feed the information into it. And this isn't an ad for ChatGPT by any means, but it was worthwhile for me to ask ChatGPT little questions to get information out of, and then to follow through with that, to work out where I can find out more. So what we worked out was that the pressures had never been, well, unless it was, they'd never been zeroed. Okay, so the system was never neutral or, you know, at zero at any point in time. It was always reading a pressure. So the left-hand sensor was reading something, but the right-hand sensor was reading something totally different. Like I'm talking, like one was reading 30 and one was reading 110. So they're all trying to pull in different ways, and it wasn't going to work. So then we asked ChatGPT, how do we fix this, blah, blah, blah. And ChatGPT gave me a few little ideas on, okay, we can go and do this, we can do that, we can chase this. And then all of a sudden, Gary kicked the key just to turn it back on and the system on, and it was Mickey. Probably got some BRP guys and whatnot going, or some guys that have worked on these before going, yeah man, it was the sensors, they weren't fucking calibrated right and stuff like that. 100%. How am I meant to know that? You know what I mean? Like, no one else is telling you this information for these motors. It's only the guys that are having a go, trying to work them out and understand what's going on there. So got all that sorted. We went out the other day. I took Haley and Lennox out. No issues, no alarms. Was perfect for about half an hour. And then we found an issue coming out of the DPS on the other side, and it's coming up with, what was it saying? It was saying DPS power issue, something like that. Check for servicing or service when available. What I think was happening is, okay, so in all the rush of getting everything ready, I didn't tighten the battery up all the way. So the power terminal was tight, but it wasn't as tight as what it could have been. I was thinking, oh, it's that's what the problem is. So I nipped that up. We went to the motorboat club for some dinner. No dramas at all. But I'm pretty sure, and I haven't checked it, but I'm nearly 100% sure what it is I pulled the pins on the modules. So all the DPS module, the sensors, the steering lockout sensor on the front there, the angle sensor, I pulled them apart to put the sheathing, the cable sheathing, the nice grey on there to clean that all up. It's got to be something with that, because there's nothing else we didn't touch. It has to be the plugs up there, so I'll sort that out. That's no dramas. But again, it all ran perfectly, guys. Can you repair it? Yes, you can. We'll go out. We'll do some more boating. We've got a race coming up. We're going to have a go at that. So yeah, looking forward to it. There's all my bits and pieces that I've replaced, but that is how I fix my G2 steering.